There have been a number of high-profile strikes in recent years, but here is an actual first. Professional League of Legends players are going on strike. It is believed to be the first strike of professional esports players, and we're gonna break down exactly why it is that they are striking, why it is that they have issues with Riot Games, the maker of League of Legends. But first, since we acknowledge that many of you might not be familiar with either esports in general or League of Legends specifically, here is what a professional esports competition in League of Legends looks like.
Same way you'd watch a football match, you can hear the crowd, everyone's cheering the team on, you make friends, these are people you talk to, you play with online. It's all about community, it's being part of something that you're incredibly passionate about.
Running for Baron though right now, trying to establish vision control and force NKT to take that ambition. Ambition steals the Elder Dragon.
I was able to follow all of that actually. Anyway, I am not really following esports these days, but I've been to many League of Legends competitions, including national championships, and it's a big business. Big business for Riot Games, who makes League of Legends. They have pulled in billions upon billions of dollars in profit. Big business for the major teams that compete in these. And so why exactly have we reached this impasse where the players are rioting? Well, More Perfect Union has done a great job of breaking down this process. And they say last month, Riot Games dropped a rule requiring teams in the top level league championship series, the LCS, that's effectively the equivalent of the NBA or the NFL, to field teams in a lower tier league. As many as 70 players, coaches, and managers could be put out of work. So basically imagine there are farm leagues for like the MLB or whatever. This is effectively saying you don't have to do that anymore. You can just have your premier level team and then that's it. And the players do not like that at all. Now, the reason Riot is doing that is despite the fact that they pull in a lot of money, the actual esports league specifically is not a money maker. It is believed to generate revenue because the esports are watched by so many people that sustains interest and brings new players into the game where they do actually make money. But apparently the owners of the esports teams who pay Riot apparently $10 million for a slot in the league, they have been promised that eventually there would be profits specifically in the esports division. And it is believed that Riot is removing this requirement to reduce costs for those teams so that they could then turn a profit. But the interests of those who own the teams is very much at odds with the players and also people who are prospective players that would like to themselves move up through that farm league and eventually move to the top level performing leagues. Anyway, I understand some of this might not have been able to be followed, but what do you make of what you're hearing?
Well, I followed it, except the esports part. I didn't understand a word of it. Okay, but in terms of the labor issue, well, I'm really mixed on this, and I'll tell you guys why, and I'm curious to get your feedback on it. So, on the one hand, I love this trend of labor throughout the country popping up everywhere, and part of the reason that's happening is because we're in such a status quo of corporate rule, and a lot of union leadership at the large unions have been co-opted. And so a lot of unions are popping up out of nowhere, Starbucks, et cetera, and then going rogue and going, you know what? No, we're gonna go on strike. When union leadership's like, no, we're working with corporate Democrats to get 1 or 2 crumbs. We're gonna get 1 or 2 crumbs, and the corporations have promised us like that I might get a little piece of that. Anyway, okay, so I love the budding of the labor movement throughout the country. So where's the downside? Well, here, this one's a tough one, right? And you have to look at each case by case. So the Riot is saying, yeah, okay, they made tons of money on overall, but the lower tier leagues lose money. So you're telling us we have to lose money. Okay, how much money do we have to lose? Right, so like, what do I have to do with another tier, right? And do I even lose more money on that? Do I have to make this tier good, bad, mediocre? Like, it's kind of a weird thing to, like, once we're past sustainability on any division within a company, then we're having a conversation about, wait, should executives get it, shareholders get it, or employees get it, et cetera. And that's a good, healthy conversation. If you're not at sustainability, it's tough to ask a company to lose money. How long are you going to lose money?
Well, they're not losing money overall. They're losing money on that specifically.
That's right. That makes it even harder. Because if they were losing money overall, well, they're going to go out of business, so it's not going to matter, right? So that's why I think it's really hard. Ken, what do you think?
I mean, I'm not an expert on esports, but my view on this stuff is that unions allow decisions to be made democratically, or they have the input of workers along with the management. And so looking at it through that lens, I don't see why it's necessarily going to mean that there's going to be more, money being put into this stuff. Again, don't know much about esports, but I think that's sort of a misconception that unions mean necessarily that more money is going to be going in a certain direction. It just means that there are more people at the table that make the decisions.
Yeah.
I want to be clear though on what Ken is saying. I'm not saying that the union is going to cost them more money. That's a normal part of doing business, especially if your overall company is making a ton of money, which they are, right? I'm saying that division within the company is just losing money irrespective of the union. And that's at least what they're saying, right? They're saying, yeah, that division just doesn't make money. It costs us a lot, so I can't keep running it, even though you want me to. It's not the extra cost. It's that it's not sustainable, period. Again, if you believe them, but I don't know why they would want to kill off a profitable division. So I do. Hence, they have credibility on that. So, John, what do you think?
Look, I think it's complicated. It's been a bit since I was actively playing or following the esports for League of Legends, but I do know that when I did, it was a major driver of interest in the game. And people do spend a lot of money to play the game, partially because they're so inspired to by the esports that they're watching. There were some other related issues. Let me throw these in the pot, see what you think. So the players say that as recently as 1 week before the decision to kill the lower tier league was made, Riot had promised the players that the lower tier league would remain intact. So they say from 1 week to another, Riot flipped on that. They also say that about 50% of current professional League of Legends players came up through the lower level league, and so they're worried about the long-term viability of the league if you get rid of this effectively farm system. You would, at that point, I guess, be limited to personal contacts that the players have and high-profile streamers, perhaps. I guess that would be all that would be left to fill slots in teams. There's a lot of turnover in these teams. I believe more than in other professional sports. And in response to the strike, Riot changed the league's rules to make it easier for teams to field replacement rosters by hiring scabs. So effectively saying, if you just want to replace your whole roster with new players who are willing to comply with the new system, they made it easier for that to happen. I don't generally like that. And they've also said that there's an ultimatum. If there's no resolution by the end of 2 weeks, the players' summer season will be canceled and the entire North American League will not be allowed to compete at Worlds, which is of course the big focus of each season.
Yeah, so look, in terms of using quote unquote scabs, there's certain rules around that, and if you violate the rules, then you should be held accountable, period, right? So you resolve the strike in other ways, and so whether you're right or wrong about the substance of the disagreement, there's certain rules that you got to abide by, and that's to protect employees, and those rules should exist. John, I just don't know if how much money are they losing, and how much of a right do we have to say keep losing money, right?
Well, they're going to, with their behavior, I guess they're going to reveal it to us. Can they afford to just not have the NALCS?
Yeah, and by the way, so that gets to my final point, which is, look, this is partly a dispute about how to manage the company. Labor is saying, you guys are cutting off our long-term viability, that's gonna hurt us and you, right? And management is saying, no, we're okay with that, I don't think it's gonna hurt our long-term viability. Well, who wins in that dispute? Well, partly they have issues like this to sort out a balance of power, right?
Right.
And maybe they get to a negotiated compromise on it, or maybe they don't. One side just wins and goes, sad day for you. And by the way, don't get me wrong, the guys who are doing the strike and labor, et cetera, they make a perfectly great point. Like in AM radio, where I started, because that's where all the talk shows were when I was coming up, they decided to go and use syndication on the weekends because it saved money, but then they stopped trying out new hosts on the weekends, which is what they used to do. Then they had no farm team at all. And then it just became Rush Limbaugh everywhere until the whole thing collapsed. So usually a bad business strategy, but hey, I don't run their business.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would be skeptical on how they're measuring too when they say this is unprofitable, that's unprofitable. Again, don't know about esports, but devil's always in the details when it comes to economics. And I want to add one more thing. I think the macroeconomic situation in which we find ourselves, where workers have more bargaining power than at any point in decades, I think makes for a very interesting sort of backdrop where all this is happening. I wonder how long this will last for. Hopefully, the Federal Reserve won't go on with its interest rate hikes, which have the effect of depressing labor and wages. But it's going to be interesting to see how far people are able to push things.
Yeah, definitely. And that part of the reason that they're doing that is because they have to do that because the government doesn't represent them anymore. And they've lost all semblance of democracy. So they're like, I guess we're gonna have to do it on our own. And that's the trend that I was saying in the beginning that I absolutely love, because it's necessary, because the corporations bought all the politicians. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.